With Bane being best remembered for breaking Batman's spine in Nightfall, you'd perhaps be surprised to discover that this ne'er-do-well has actually been responsible for far worse things in the span of his villainous past. But don't worry, because that's what we're here to take a look at today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 worst things that Bane has ever done. Number 10. Ruining Batman's wedding. Remember holding out hope that Batman and Catwoman would actually get married? All of the dreams and fan speculations that got crushed to the ground? Well, you can officially blame Bane for that one. Because the cancellation of said wedding is revealed to be one of Bane's most convoluted plans to date, involving him paying off one of Catwoman's oldest friends in order to get her to convince the anti-hero that marrying the Dark Knight would make him stop being Batman, and knowing that this would cause her to call off the marriage. It's convoluted, but it's more than that. It's also needlessly personal. Unless this is Bane's way for expressing his upset that Talia al Ghul would always pick the bat over him, it's unclear why he picked such a weirdly petty way to get at his enemy. Number 9. Committing prison genocide. Proving that evil doesn't need to amp up, our first proper look at adult Bane in Batman Vengeance of Bane sees the villain murder 30 of his fellow prison inmates for seemingly the sole purpose of flexing how tough he is for everyone else to see. Until this point, all of Bane's murders had been justifiable actions, with his childhood murder of the man about to abuse him pretty much as warranted as killing can get. This later murder spree, however, is significantly less justifiable, and far more outright evil, with it being suggested that this is the first time of many that the continually confined convict loses his temper and succumbs to his great internal rage. When you do something that scares people who have been guarding one of the worst prisons in the world for years, you know it's something that is genuinely pretty messed up. Number 8. Turning evil again. After Gotham Knights number 49 closed with Batman and the man who broke his bat on pretty chummy terms, largely due to Batman saving Bane's life by dipping him in the Lazarus pit, many fans held out hope that this would mark at least a period of time where the luchador would exist under some more heroic terms, redeemed and renewed from his villainous life prior. These hopes were absolutely dashed, however, as Bane's return after this saw him as the same bat-hating muscle man that he'd been prior. While it was inevitable that the masked villain would return to his old ways at some point, it seems extra awful of both him and the writers to not have him do at least one good deed in this interim time. When you have a full 3-issue redemption moment, it's pretty rude to throw it all away, especially when the guy that you're trying to kill again is the person who helped you get this new life in the first bloody place. Number 7. Breaking the bat. The classic tale of Bane doing terrible things, Batman Nightfall is perhaps the perfect way to introduce Bane to anyone not familiar with this big scary luchador, as it contains him breaking bones, doing evil, and being an all-round lovably awful dude. The spine breaking is perhaps the worst of all of this though, as prior to this moment we really hadn't seen anyone defeat the Dark Knight properly before. With this in mind, seeing the human tank destroy the hero marked him as both decidedly evil and incredibly interesting, as we got to see just how potent a threat he was to the Dark Knight from the start. Even years from now, this moment still marks something of a cultural zenith for both Batman and Bane, as it's difficult to think of the fearsome criminal wrestler without thinking of him in this most iconic moment of carnage. Number 6. Letting the Secret Six die. The Secret Six series showed us a version of Bane that is arguably him at his most well-intentioned, as although he's still totally a bad guy, he's one that cares deeply for his teammates, and shows a clear moral code that has him protecting the innocent just as much as murdering the guilty. But Bane had ulterior reasons for letting the team fight to their death in the comic's final issue, with it being revealed in the very last page that he had orchestrated their demise on purpose in order to get rid of any sentimental attachments to then be able to go after Batman yet again. It's kind of heartbreaking, as Bane had spent so long growing so close to the team and seemed genuinely willing to do anything for them, so much so that the prospect of him having wanted them to die seems a complete spit in the face of all of those sweet moments. Number 5. Killing the Russian Mafia because he lost a game of chess. While killing the Russian Mafia would generally be considered a kind of heroic action, Bane manages to pull off the whole ordeal in a way where every ounce of potential heroism is sucked from the marrow of the plot. When Bane is beaten at chess by his half-hostage, half-sidekick Dionysus, his rage at being bested kicks into overdrive, and sees him agree to murder the scores of men within said Mafia, essentially to prove that he is better than his peer. It's an entirely childish reason to put not only his life but also the lives of his team in danger, and yet Bane immediately does so, all to avoid the sting of one questionable chess move. Murdering endless folks because you needed to do is one thing, but when your motivation is not to look silly because you lost a board game, it's only going to make you look even worse. Number 4. Taking over Gotham. Proving that City of Bane is truly the villain's pinnacle in terms of evil, the storyline sees what Gotham would look like under Bane's control, which can be summed up in 3 words: a total nightmare. Bane allows the rest of Batman's villain roster to replace the city's officials that used to run Gotham, letting the Joker and the Riddler run the police department and having Firefly run the fire department, which now starts fires instead of trying to combat them. Naturally, this doesn't have wildly positive effects on the city, with average people being indiscriminately murdered left and right in order to occupy the sadistic hobbies of the Bat's worst enemies. That said, Kite Man managed to make himself a new layer in the chaos, so at least there's a silver lining. Number 3. Killing Judo Master. In a total blink and you'll miss it panel, Infinite Crisis number 7 features a moment where Bane snaps the relatively obscure Judo Master's back, killing him in one blow. While this initially seems like a total throwaway moment, the superhero's child, Thomas, goes on to meet and fight Bane in the Checkpoint series, wherein the villain mocks his opponent for having a dead dad who he killed, basically. It's not an entirely sensible diss, but it is an entirely cruel one, as Bane not only killed a man but made fun of his son for being sad that his dad was dead. Within the Secret Six and even the Batman series, Bane has had his fair share of caring and empathetic moments. These are almost totally undermined, however, by the fact that he once looked somebody in the eyes and pretty much said, "It's funny that you feel grief for a loved one," like it was the universe's most hilarious punchline. Number 2. Sending a plague down on Gotham. Bringing a plague on a city is always a bad time, and Bane's decision to do so to Gotham in Batman Legacy is no exception to this rule, with this comic marking one of Bane's most purely evil features in DC's history. In the space of one comic, Bane kills a wheelchair-bound priest, tortures pretty much everyone he comes across, and also kills any chance Batman and Talia al Ghul have of getting together by becoming her father's new heir, which means the two apparently now have to get married and have kids. All of that isn't even touching upon Ra's and Bane's plan to poison Gotham, which involves a pathogen that will kill 90% of the population, just so that the pair can rule the remaining populace, although they do seem just as likely to kill each other first, given how many times they turn on each other during this one plot. And number 1, killing Alfred. Batman number 77 saw Bane do the unthinkable and use his meaty paws to snap the neck of Alfred Pennyworth, comics' most beloved butler and 24/7 surrogate dad to the Batman. What rubs salt in the wound, though, is that up until this point, we've only actually ever seen Alfred and Bane on pretty good terms, with the pair even teaming up during the events of Batman Eternal number 31 in order to escape Arkham Asylum. From this, many presumed that Bane would favour the old man, or at least not twist his neck like a bottle top the minute that he got the chance, but under the watchful eye of an evil Thomas Wayne, this is exactly what Bane did, in front of a weeping Damian as well, just to twist the knife a little further. Although technically Bane's previous mass murder sprees could be considered worse, it's also incredibly hard not to consider him killing the delightfully sharp heart of the Bat family the very worst thing that he's ever done. And there we go, my friends, those were the 10 worst things that Bane has ever done. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice, where I do all of my Warhammer battle reports and game streaming outside of work. So if you're into that sort of thing, I'd love to see you over there. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.